But why do people need art? Why do we need, because people maybe don't fully understand the value and the necessity of art because it is in every person's life, whether they realize it or not.
It is. I think a lot of times, and actually I talked with someone at work about this 2 weeks ago. I work at a car dealership in a repair shop, and one of the last people I expected to really engage with me about the topic of art and creativity, one of my coworkers, it's not what I expected at all to come from him, but we were talking about abstract art of all things, and I told him, I used the analogy that I think abstract art, for example, it has a way of speaking. It's a language. It's a visual language. And I think that most of us, if not all of us, we understand that language, but we don't know that we understand that language, or we could understand that language and we don't know that we do. And sometimes it takes experiencing a piece of art and it impacting you without you realizing what's going on to remind yourself that you know another language, a visual language that you just haven't been practicing for most of your life or for a year or for 2 years. So I think it's important for people because it really does, in the same way that music impacts and changes the way that we think, and it gives us a framework sometimes for how we're processing and how we're viewing things. I think that visual art can do the same thing. And that's where I think that abstract art can play a role in our lives. Kind of like, and I don't know musically where your tastes all lie, but obviously there's music with lyrics, there's contemporary and there's pop and there's worship and there's acoustic and then there's classical. And classical in my understanding kind of fills that same parallel to abstract art, where then you have classical painting that's very concrete. This is the person they were depicting. So you have that side of the spectrum. You have a portrait, which was very intentional with what it's trying to depict, and then you have abstract, which leaves the space open for you to think and to process. And classical music falls over there with abstract, and then a lot of other music falls into this portrait end of the spectrum. So you have in classical music, you have this big open space where a lot of your emotions can be touched and a lot of your thought processes can be played out without being interrupted by a direct thought and a direct statement through words. And abstract art or classical music in the same way, they kind of open up that space and say, like, go ahead with your thoughts, go ahead with your feelings, and see how they all sort out with the Lord, with other people, on your own.
Very interesting, because I would imagine some people could look at abstract art or classical music and just go, that's not my taste, not my style, not my thing. I'm going to come over here with something a little more concrete.
Yeah.
And, but I feel a little bit of a challenge maybe for some people listening who maybe go, art's not for me kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what if it is?